Good morning, and welcome to Government House this morning. Thank you to members of the media for attending my regular press catch-up this morning. And good morning also to the Deputy Governor as well, who is here as well today. This is one of my regular press catch-ups, but I will go through a few words at the beginning, and then there's a chance for questions at the end. First, I would like to start out by paying tribute to our public officers. As you know, it has just been Public Service Week, the theme of which was 20 years of resilience, hope and celebration. I was thrilled to take part in some of this week's celebration, or the week's celebrations, and visit a number of offices throughout to personally thank our public officers. I've also taken part in a number of award ceremonies these past weeks. I'm looking forward to shortly launching a Governor's Award titled the Medal of Meritorious Service, which will be for law enforcement and national security officers. COVID-19 has brought unprecedented challenges to our public service, the way we work and the jobs we do. I feel incredibly proud of our dedicated public officers rising to that challenge and exhibiting the highest standards of integrity, fairness and BVI love. Qualities I see every single day, also across our business people, faith and community figures, and BVI as a whole. This week also marks the end of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. We've been fortunate this year not to experience any major landfalls, but unfortunately the same cannot be said for our neighbours in the region, particularly Central America. We know the pain that those people affected are facing right now, and our thoughts and prayers stay with them. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the extensive preparations that took place across the territory to help us be ready. Amidst all the other requirements brought on by COVID-19, it took even more effort this season. And I'm very grateful to DDM, essential workers, volunteers, and community organisations, and every individual in this territory for their work to keep us ready. On the subject of COVID-19, I trust that many individuals across the territory will have been closely following work to develop a vaccine. It is great to see the United Kingdom pioneering this work and to have assurances from the United Kingdom government that the British Virgin Islands will receive any COVID-19 vaccine procured by the United Kingdom, which will be the same vaccine as the UK. And let me be clear, will be distributed on a completely voluntary basis, overseen by the BVI government. I believe this gives us cause for hope that things may be different in 2021. Another cause for hope is the reopening of the territory's borders to tourists this week. And I was delighted to attend the heavily anticipated opening ceremony at the airport on Monday. I know that the territory stands with open arms, albeit 6 feet socially distanced, ready to welcome our visitors with BVI love. With all the successes and the great things we are achieving as a territory, it is important that we also address any areas that could hold us back. And I would like to spend some time talking about the governance of the territory. During my time here, I've sought to make BVI as successful as it possibly can be, with equal opportunities and a high standard of governance for all. As colleagues here today know, as at many of our press briefings before, we have discussed the things we need to put in place to achieve this, from more transparent practices to laws which protect against corruption. I've heard time and time again that people want these reforms and more. The people of BVI are our greatest asset. During my time here, I've had the honour to get to know some of the most talented individuals I have ever worked with. The vast, vast, vast majority of them, and the community more broadly, I know want the British Virgin Islands to be governed with integrity, openness and fairness. Likewise, the public service is overwhelmingly filled by officers committed to achieving good governance. These individuals represent the true values and character of BVI. Therefore, when I talk about improving governance, despite what some might say, I do not do so as a criticism of BVI, but based on what I believe the people of BVI want. I, like the majority of people here, want BVI to be as successful and as self-determining as it can be. Recently, I've had a number of concerns and allegations put to me by the community. I will not go into the specific details of these, as they are allegations, but I will broadly speak to the areas they touch on. I do so after much deliberation because I want to be transparent and open about these things and to find out more about what we may be facing. First, many people are concerned about transparency when it comes to public projects and funds. The Auditor General has written numerous reports detailing the common problems in this area: tender waivers, interference, contract splitting, and inflated prices being a few examples. As you know, investigations are underway on some matters, which I cannot comment on. The recommendations from those audit reports have not always been actioned and raises concerns that our systems remain vulnerable. I know that many people are troubled by this, particularly in relation to government contracts and the recent stimulus funds. These concerns are exasperated by the fact that details of government spending is not always readily available to the public, and our institutions are good governance. Many have asked whether the Territory's governance is operating with the level of integrity and fairness that it should, and this question warrants some consideration. In response, the Deputy Governor and I continue to speak with our local institutions about how we address these challenges. The Auditor General, the Commissioner of Police, the Complaints Commissioner, the Financial Investigations Agency, and the Registrar of Interests have already been doing important work in specific areas of concern, and we are discussing what more can be done. One thing we can be sure of is that robust, holistic, and impartial investigation is required to reassure the people of BVI. Regrettably, our local institutions have told us that they may be hindered in carrying this out, without the legislation and full frameworks in place to give them the mandate to do so. We will continue to assess what needs to be done as we find out more. Second, I know many are concerned about the number of drugs and cash seizures and gun violence recently taking place in this territory. These make it clear that the territory is vulnerable to drug trafficking, to serious organised crime, and all that comes with it. Criminal investigations are underway, and so I will not comment on specific investigations. But we cannot ignore the fact there is a problem here. Drugs and smugglers are able to enter the territory's closed borders, and our people have got killed. The risks for the territory are significant, and we must not let this crime continue to infiltrate our society, our businesses, and our way of life. And we must not let the profits of crime risk corrupting our institutions. In response to these concerns, we are taking immediate steps to bolster our security and law enforcement agencies. With the support of the National Security Council, I've invited UK police officers to provide extra support to the Joint Task Force. Whilst here, they will deliver a programme of training and mentoring to help upskill our people and support the British Virgin Islands do more for ourselves to secure the territory. Linked to this, and in the spirit of building BVI's capability for the long term, the UK government is injecting new funding into BVI's security and institutions. For example, we're providing just under $500,000 to help BVI rebuild its marine base in partnership with our government here, and we've provided funds to repair RVIPF ships and infrastructure, along with our government, so they have the latest tools and equipment to do their job effectively. These measures will help the Territory to do more to tackle the threat of serious organised crime. We are also putting forward legislation to help our agencies investigate unexplained wealth, which I hope that the Cabinet and in due course the House will support. Third, I've heard the community raise concerns relating to intimidation and victimisation in the Territory. These have been put to me by a number of individuals in senior positions across the public service, even from some in the media, industry, and our community. I will not go into specific details as they were shared in confidence, but some have described a growing culture of fear, strong allegations which we cannot brush aside. I want to be clear, no one in this Territory should be afraid to raise a concern. It is a constitutional right to have freedom of speech, and everyone should be able to do their job without fear or favour. My office and the Deputy Governor's office is always open to any individual seeking to raise a concern or ask for help. We will put in place a process for those to be shared in confidence. We will also bring forward measures to strengthen our institutions in response to concerns. The Deputy Governor and I will shortly be bringing forward the Integrity in Public Life Act, which will bolster the ability of our institutions to ensure accountability. Finally, as colleagues here know, I previously stated I was due to leave here at the end of this year. However, I will now be staying on into January until the new Governor, Mr. John Rankin, is sworn in. This will allow me to continue to support the public service and the Deputy Governor, who are doing tremendous work to support the Territory at this time. It will allow a smooth handover to my successor in case of any disruptions caused by travel and quarantine, and it will allow me to consider the concerns put to me in consultation with BVI institutions. We hope that during this period we can have open and honest conversations about what we need to do to build better governance in BVI. The vast majority of people in BVI are honest and want the best for this Territory. I hope that all voices will be heard and respected. We have a huge amount to be proud of in BVI, but it's not a bad thing to say there are things we need to improve on here in BVI. An individual who does so is not against BVI. Quite the opposite. It shows that you care about making BVI a better, a more democratic, and a more transparent place. This is exactly what our Constitution demands. The Constitution states that this Territory is built, and I quote, on honesty, integrity, mutual respect, self-reliance, and that the Virgin Islands should be governed on adherence to well-established democratic principles and institutions. It also states that the people of the Virgin Islands have generally expressed a desire to become a self-governing people. All those in public office, including me, as your Governor, and your Deputy Governor, are duty-bound to uphold the Constitution and the rights of people in this Territory. So if the people of BVI have concerns, it's right that they've been raised. And if they wish to raise more, I, as a Governor, as I know also the Deputy Governor, are here to support you. I've been inspired by the number of individuals who have come to me with a genuine desire to improve this Territory. This speaks to how much the people of BVI truly want to see change and to advance. 70 years on from the restoration of the legislature in BVI, the commitment to BVI's democratic values stays strong. Any democracy needs the people to be empowered with accountability and transparency. BVI, I truly believe, has the potential to be a model for the region. Now let us work together to help BVI to achieve its full potential and be held in the highest regard for its honest governance and values. This takes hard work. It also takes courage. Courage to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, we can aim higher. We know that the key to BVI's success lies in the hands of the people. This is one of the safest places in the Caribbean, underpinned by an effective public service, underpinned by a strong rule of law and internationally successful industries. The people of BVI have proven their strength time and time again in building this territory and sustaining it through floods, hurricanes, and now COVID-19. It's been an inspiration and an honor to be part of. Now, as we head into the new year, we will stay true to our values and we will champion the BVI that we know and love. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ZBVI Radio. Governor spoke for almost 15 minutes, and you mentioned a number of issues that you're looking into and things that need to be addressed. But you haven't touched on the bill that dealt with the marijuana bill that's currently before you for sanction, and there are other bills before you also that I think they have been before you for the last 2 to 3 months, and we have not been hearing anything about these bills. What's the position you are scheduled to leave in January?
Thank you. So specifically on the bills, every single bill I consider very, very carefully, as of course you would understand and respect. There is, I believe, 2 bills or 3 bills outstanding that I haven't given assent to. One is relating to the Prison Act, which the Ministry is currently reviewing due to issues that were flagged on that. On the marijuana one, that is something that I'm considering very, very carefully, as you would expect, and you'd also understand anything that I am discussing, I'll do first with Cabinet prior to here.
What's the problem with the bill? Because I know you outlined a number of concerns some months ago. I spoke to the Premier not too long ago also, and he said that government has done all what it could. They cannot do anymore. It's up to the governor. What's holding it up, Governor? What's holding up the bill at this time?
Well, as I said, on those bills, these are important bills. It's important we consider them properly, and it's important that at the final stages that I consider them fully before giving assent. That's something I'm doing, and then you'll respect that any conversations I have will be with the Premier and with Cabinet before I...
You're not answering the question, Governor. The bill is before you for a very long time. What it is that's holding it up? The government said they have done everything. They cannot do anything more. The government saying it's the governor who is holding up the bill. You said there are a number of things to look into it. What are you looking into, sir? And find also, will it be ascended to or whatever before you leave the BVI in January?
These bills are new, novel and unprecedented bills. It's completely right, and I would not be doing my duty if I didn't consider them fully. My duty is to consider those. That's what I'm doing, and as I'm sure you will respect, as I consider them, the conversations I have will be with Cabinet and with the Premier before I say anything more publicly. Thank you.
Good morning, Governor Kathy Richards, JTV News. That presentation sounds like the final one we will be having with you, seeing that you're leaving in January. I hope not. My question to you, Governor, it's relating to a number of issues. The first one, some time back, you came under some serious criticisms for a statement you would have made as it relates to reparation. Do you still stand by what you said then? If so, why you stand by that statement that you made?
Catherine, thanks. So, today I'm talking about governance issues in the territory, so let's talk a bit about that. What I said previously on slavery is something that I stand by. I think it was abhorrent, I think it was disgusting, and I think it was wrong. And that is something that I'm not going to change. That is what I fundamentally believe on that, and that's something that I said at the time. Thanks, Kathy.
You are responsible to a great extent for overlooking security in the territory. There was an incident not so long ago at Virgin Gorda where a police officer was shot in the leg. We recently learned that that police officer has been dismissed from the police force. What we haven't heard is what became of the investigation that resulted in his injuries.
Thanks. Well, you'll understand I can't comment on any specific investigation or any specific either disciplinary or matter relating to any officer. There obviously was a full investigation on that, but it'd be inappropriate for me to get into details of it.
I'm not asking you to comment on his dismissal, but we need to know something about the case. There are so many other cases that have happened in the territory where we would have had a release or given some amount of information as to the stage of that investigation, whether it was completed or not. But we are not hearing about this particular one.
So investigations is for the police commissioner to update on any investigations. Stepping back a bit, something that concerns me, and this is what I talked about just now, is about gun crime. And it's right that we are concerned about it. We should be incredibly proud and shouldn't ever risk the fact that we are one of the safest places in the Caribbean. And that's something that is a huge credit to BVI. It underpins our tourism, it underpins our community, it underpins our success. So when we see guns in our streets, when we see shootings, or when we see, as we saw, the biggest record of drug seizures of cocaine ever found. These are things that we need to think hard about. We need to think, how did this happen? What is happening? And what are the conditions that have allowed this to happen? To have the biggest recorded seizure of drugs in this territory at a time when our borders are closed raises serious questions. Now that's an investigation. The matter you mentioned is an investigation. I won't get into the details. But what I do need to do, and what is important to me, is that we have a debate about what's happening and what we need to do to ensure that we are keeping the strength of BVI going forward. Thank you.
Good morning, Governor. Kamal Haynes from BVI News. This morning you would have addressed a number of concerns being raised by residents across the territory that would have been brought to your office. My question is, you would have alluded to the fact that you'll be looking into the matters. How soon or how long will these investigations take? And when you come to the conclusion of the investigations, will the matters be brought to the public?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Well, so I deliberated on this, and I know the media colleagues here. I know you have reported on various different community concerns or various different issues over the time here, and I've read those. I've seen them. I've also been in receipt of things directly to me, and I know we've also had specific investigations underway, which, as I said, I won't speak about the individual details, but there's various different bits underway. I have to be clear, it's not for me to judge or to be the person who says exactly on each of those. There are institutions who need to look at them. But I believe it's right that we do say and openly say, yes, there are some concerns, and that's what's been put to me, and I decided it was right that we openly say there are concerns. And I want to be in listening mode. I want to know more about those concerns. I want to understand the scale of them. I want to understand what is happening more, so that then I can assess what we need to do with others, with our institutions here, with the Deputy Governor, with the teams that we have, to assess what is really happening and what do we need to do about them. So at the moment, I want to be in receiving mode. I want to be in listening mode, so that I can then assess and be able to update on next steps in due course. Thank you.
Okay, for example, one of the concerns you would have raised is the alleged intimidation. Now, how, after hearing such a complaint, how do you go about investigating this matter to determine whether, the alleged allegation is indeed true, and how do you bring these persons to account in a public light, considering that, it's now made public information as it relates to the alleged intimidation occurring?
Yeah, thank you. But this for me is one of the most concerning areas, because everybody should be able to live their lives completely free and fair and able to hold on to what's right without any fear of intimidation or victimization. I need to stress, I've had a number of people pass allegations to me. As I said, these are things that have been alleged to me. I want to understand more. I won't obviously comment or say, who or what, that would break confidence. but I have had things passed to me. It'd be remiss of me not to look into those. But I also want to say that this is unacceptable if that is happening. And I want people in the community to be confident that we are built, our territory is built on a success, that people feel confident and comfortable in the community, that people feel safe, that people feel they can talk about any issue, that people feel whatever their status in the territory is, that they have full and equal rights and to be respected for what they are doing or what they may be saying. Now, that's a debate that we need to have. As I said, the things that have been passed to me are things that will be looked into specifically. But I'm also, if people have concerns, they should feel confident, and if it's public officers, we have the Deputy Governor in his office, as well as mine, but anybody in the community, and we'll work through a process to do this. If people wish to submit anything anonymously, then we will have a process to be able to do that. Thank you.
Okay, my final question is on HMS Medway. We obviously know that you would have ordered to have the vessel here in the territory to provide assistance to border security. I know obviously the last media conference you would have spoken as it relates to over operations and stuff. So I just wanted to ask in terms of have there been an extension in terms of how long the vessel will be in the territory? Can you report as it relates to how successful the operations have been thus far? Without revealing too much information, as you would say, could you just speak as it relates to HMS Medley in the territory and how much longer it has, basically?
Thank you. So firstly, I'm hugely grateful for HMS Medway and the United Kingdom government for supporting us during this period. It was critical to me, and I know discussions at National Security Council that we secure our border, both from the risks that we face in normal times, people coming across the border potentially illegally or trafficking things, but even more so during COVID times, where there was then the risk of the pandemic coming across our border. HMS Medway is in the region. It is supporting. It is specific work, and I won't go into all of the operational details, as I'm sure you can understand, but it had some significant seizures and significant interruptions to the flow of people or nefarious trafficking across the waters. So I'm hugely grateful for that. What we also need to do, though, is make sure that we build up our own border security more, and we make sure that we have complete confidence in the integrity of all of our agencies and all those who are protecting us as well. And that's why partly what I was talking about today, that we need to bolster our security. I'm grateful that the UK is funding 6 specialist marine officers who will come out and will support our joint task force to bolster our security. Even last night I was delighted to be with the Premier launching the new Midnight Justice boat, which is for the RVIPF, which has been a partnership to get this going. And I'm delighted that boat is now on the water and operational. And we also need to look at how we secure the border for the long term as well, with proper surveillance equipment, and that's something that I'm talking about with the National Security Council as well. But I'm grateful as ever for the support that we had from the specific military ship, as you mentioned. But that's part of a whole series of support that we need to do to ensure we keep our border secure.
Governor, when are you scheduled to leave the position as governor in the BVI in January? What date?
Well, dates at the moment, as you know, the old days of saying my ticket is on this day and the flight will be leaving at exactly whatever time. COVID has slightly put a line.
What days you are scheduled to? What days you are scheduled to leave?
I will be here in January, and when the new governor, Mr. Rankin, is through the border, with his flights all through, that will probably be around the end of January time. And once he's through quarantine, then I will lead the territory.
So you do not know when he is scheduled to arrive?
Mr. Rankin. Mr. Rankin has a provisional date to arrive in mid-January, but that's being worked through with flight availability due to COVID, and then obviously he'll have to quarantine.
The marijuana bill, will you have an answer on that bill in terms of its ascension or whatever you choose to do before you leave the BVI?
And we discussed that bill quite a bit. I think I've said everything on it, and I will be discussing with Cabinet and the Premier on next steps on that. Thanks.
You outlined some areas in terms of what concerns you have been hearing, the drug bust, transparency in projects, intimidation, victimization. Will it be correct to assume then that there is victimization and intimidation in the public service?
Well, I've had things presented to me. I've had people talk to me about that, and people raise concerns about that. That's usually worrying. Now, as I said, these are allegations. There's not for me to at this point say exactly what has happened or what is happening. But it'd be remiss of me, when such serious things are raised as allegations, not to do a couple of things. Firstly, to say it's okay. It's okay to speak out. You should have full confidence to speak to, whether that's my office, the Deputy Governor's office, or others, if you are concerned in any way. And secondly, it would be remiss of me not to say these will be investigated and looked into. So that's where that is. And I want to give the public officers, the reassurance that they should feel confident, whatever sphere of life you're in, to do your job without fear or favour, and to do what you know is right.
How many concerns, you said there are a number of issues, concerns have been brought to you. How many concerns are before you that you are investigating in relation to the intimidation and the whole issue of the contracts and projects? How many of them are before you are being investigated?
Well, I'm not going to go into specific details because people have raised things in confidence with me, but there's a number of areas which have been put to me by different sectors of the community, by the public service, by those in business, and by those in the community. Those are things that I believe it's right that I want to be open and transparent about it. This is why today I've said I've been presented with concerns. I may be seeing just some of it. I may be seeing all of it. I may need to investigate all, I may not. I want, though, the public to know that I take everything that is put to me very seriously, and there should be the confidence to talk about and to come forward if people have any concerns. Thank you.
Finally, Governor, you're not answering the question before that. I'm not asking you to go into the allegations. I'm asking how many concerns, how many issues you're looking into. That's one. And you're leaving in January. You're responsible for the public service. Would you say, in light of what's coming out of the public service, of the alleged intimidation, victimization, that during your duties here, you have been unable to stamp out that? Because I believe you'd have heard that on your arrival. You say that you have failed in your duties where that is concerned, and also, are you satisfied as you prepare to leave the BVI that you have accomplished bringing transparency and good governance to the BVI?
Thanks, Zan. So, the public service, let me be very clear, I've worked with some incredible public officers in my time here, and we have a brilliant public service. Even if I just reflect on this last year, let alone when I first got here and we had the hurricanes and we had the public officers having to support the rebuild of this territory. But even in the last year, the agility, the flexibility, the dedication, the commitment and the hard work of our public officers is outstanding. And I want to thank our public officers for what they have done and do every single day. I've said this before, I've worked in different countries around the world. We have some of the most talented public officers in the world that I've ever worked with. I'm incredibly proud to be part of that team. In terms of when people raise allegations, as I've said, I'm not going to go into the specifics of them, Zan, but I want to make sure that everything we do helps to support the best of this territory, brings out the best of our public officers, brings out the best of all of the opportunities of this territory. If there are things that are holding people back, it's right that we look at them. If people are saying they're held back because they're concerned about being intimidated, it's right we look at it. If people say there's allegations of certain misdoing or wrongdoing, they may just be allegations, but it's right that we look at it. If we need reforms to strengthen our institutions, which I have spoken about many times, and I do believe we do need, to improve our standards and governance, to improve our transparency, it's right that we do those. It's not for me to say exactly what each person is saying, or what they should be doing, or what each allegation is. That would be improper. But it is right that we recognise the vast, vast majority of people here, I know, and our public officers in particular, every single day serve with integrity, serve with dedication, serve with commitment, and I am duty bound, as are all in public office, to uphold our constitution and to support them to do their jobs for this territory. Thank you.
Sir, we're just going to have one more question from Ms. Richards, and then I would invite you to close us out if you have any closing remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Governor Jaspert, my final question has two parts. The first part is, can you explain for us your role in the hiring and firing of police officers?
Okay. That's quite a specific one. But so essentially, just to briefly explain about the hiring and firing of police officers, these are operational matters done by the police. But we have what's called the Police Service Commission. And similar to other commissions, where we have the JLSE, which is for the judicial and legal, we have the Public Service Commission, which is about public officers. They operate impartially and independently, and they will give me advice, and then my role is to decide on that advice that I'm presented with.
Okay, so you do not have any role to say whether or not, by law, a person is to be hired or fired from the police force? I just need to be clear.
Well, it's set out constitutionally in terms of my role, specifically with advice from the Police Service Commission, which is the body that oversees appointments.
To advise the police commission?
No, the Police Service Commission advises me to then make a decision, similar to the Public Service Commission or the Judicial Legal Services Commission, which are constitutionally bound to recommend and give the advice, and that is for me to accept that advice unless there are specific reasons why I need to put that back to them.
Have you been apprised of a decision that is in the train to reinstate 2 police officers who were implicated in a major crime case in the territory?
I'm not going to get drawn into specific HR or operational matters. That would be improper to do that. Everything that comes to me has a very set process, which you would expect, and it's very important that we keep the impartiality and the independence of those processes very clear, which is if there's processes undertaken by the police, if there's then a process undertaken by the Police Service Commission, and often, not in all cases, but often in the cases where they come to me, then I would be looking to ensure that those processes have been done correctly before I make any decision. Thanks, Gavin. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues, for time this morning, and thank you to all of those who have joined also in the community. Just as I end on this, can I thank everybody for listening this morning, and also to the media, who these things always are questions and answers back and forth, which is completely the job of the media. But I also want to thank all of you in the media as well. You do an important job for the territory. You are part of the institutions of our territory as well, and you have my gratitude for what you do as well. I've touched on some big subjects today, and I want the community to know that these are things that are important, and the things that are right that we look at, and that we consider how we go forward. But it is all done in the spirit of both the Constitution, but most importantly, supporting this territory to be as successful as it can be. So thank you very much.